Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch, and I am the host of this podcast. And of course, we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between it, with some amazing people that not only are walking the walk, but talking the talk and changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, for those who are just tuning in, if you have not already, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And of course, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, please share this along with them. This is a live stream, so please put your questions or comments in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, before I bring on my guests, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Okay? Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Zoey Michaels, to the show. Zoey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you making time for me.
Of course. I appreciate you making time, vice versa, right? Because this is, we set it up at the last minute, but here we are about to make it happen.
Sounds like I can't wait.
Yeah, it's good. I am truly excited. Now, before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from a family that moved a lot. My dad, people always thought, "Are you in the military?" But he just had happy feet. He was always on the move looking for someplace nice. So I got to see a lot of the United States with all the places we moved. I also had a chance to live abroad with my ex-husband for a while, so that was interesting. But basically, I'm just your ordinary average girl. Still think of myself as a girl all these years later. And recently, even though I've always done writing on a very low key, I have stepped out and I'm finding my voice as an author. And so that's where we're at today. I've written, this is my fourth book we'll be talking about today.
Awesome. Now, tell people what your book is about.
Yeah, so this book is super personal for me. Usually I write fiction. I much prefer fiction and happy places. Okay. But this book is a result of something that happened in my personal life. Oops, I apologize. I have 2 cats and a dog.
That's okay.
Something else you learned about me, and that one was So I apologize.
No worries.
So I had been scammed, and the funny thing about it was that when I first met the person, I said to myself, be careful, this might be a scammer, because I had been scammed once before. Okay. So I knew what to watch for, I thought. And it turned out that I was too confident. I reached a point where in working with this person, he either was working multiple personalities or he was working with a team. I had not encountered quite the same thing. So even asking all the right questions still ended up with a bad situation. That had I known more, maybe about the way manipulators work, the way their minds work, and had taken into account that their methods adapt, just like a virus. You can have a virus and you think it's contained and whoops, here's an outbreak. Scammers are much the same way. And I learned that the second time I was scammed. So it was very important to me when I finally realized what had happened, when I fully realized it, that first of all, I had to heal. I had to understand what happened. And for me, that meant writing it down, doing a timeline. Okay, this happened and this happened and this happened, and reverse engineering. Okay, so why did this happen? Why did I react this way? And so toward the end of this whole episode of being scammed, of course, they run you to a point where you have no money. So you're looking for ways to make an income, which is what led me to go, okay, what do I have that I can make an income beyond what I normally do? I already work full time. So I decided to take my stories out of the shadows and start writing books, which is why my first 3 books, I published them, looking to find an audience, looking to hopefully make some money with them. But the 4th book was based on my experiences with the scammer, partially to help me heal. But I didn't want to just write my story. Here's my story. There's value in that. The people who've been scammed, who have shared their story, I applaud them, because it's basically, and I don't mean this to sound simplified, because people who have been raped, I mean, that's such a serious thing. The closest comparison, though, is financial rape. And that's what scammers are. They're financial rapists, financial terrorists, whatever you want to call them. But I wanted to understand that and understand how their minds worked, so that maybe, in addition to helping myself heal, I could help others if they were in the midst of the same things I was experiencing. They could see the way the manipulator's mind was thinking, and then recognize their own thoughts in the other part. Because I wrote this book in a way that it reads almost like a thriller, like if you were reading a thriller story. Here's this scam artist teaching his apprentice, okay, this is why we're going to do this with our victim. And then the victim's way of reasoning, well, but they didn't ask for this. They didn't ask for money. They got, and him explaining, now this is why we're doing this. And so I'm giving you a story to understand. And then I'm also providing the tools based on my research. This is what you do to get out of that situation. And I apologize if I'm just running a mile a minute. But
no, you're totally fine. You're totally fine, because it helps me understand, right? But go ahead, because I got questions.
Okay. Well, and one of the things I wanted to break away too was, in my research, I found additional types of things that scam artists do that I never even imagined were dangerous. Someone who says, well, I'm going to have something sent to your house, right? Usually nothing ever shows up, but sometimes something does show up. And if it does, you are in even more danger than you could possibly imagine. Maybe from the scam artist, but more likely they've sent something illegal. And guess what? If you opened it up, you are legally in trouble. So if that package shows up, you need to call the police, because you have no business having that package at your house. I did not know that until I was doing my research for this book. But one of the things too, I apologize, another cat's about to jump at me.
That's okay.
Another thing I wanted to do with this book was to help family and friends. Hello, this is Orlando.
Hi, Orlando.
Help family and friends to recognize the signs, because scammers like nothing better than someone who's isolated by themselves, and they even work toward getting you to that point if you weren't before. Right. And your friends and family might be aware of some changes on some level, but maybe not fully recognize. Or even if they do recognize, there's a right way to help your friend get out of that situation, to help them recognize themselves. Because only you can get yourself out of that situation with that scammer. As much as your friends want to help, those scammers, they know how to push your buttons. They know how to manipulate you and keep you on the hook.
Right.
So I've got, my book is very unique in those 2 very big ways. Number one, it's written as a thriller with the help piece, but it also has questionnaires for your friends and family. If they think of loved ones being scammed, for them to answer, have I seen this behavior? And, it rates it, okay, maybe they are. Oh, they definitely are. But there's also a questionnaire for the person who might possibly be the victim, to help them assess and think it through a little bit more clearly, and then giving them an action plan to get out. So that's kind of where we're at with this book.
Okay. And what's the title of your book? Do you have a copy of your book with you?
I don't have right now. I only do digital books. I try not to have paper copies in my life, so I apologize. I don't have a paper copy here, but it's called Breaking Free: How Scammers Manipulate and How to Fight Back. And my publishing company did the most amazing cover art for it, and I'll have to have it as an attachment, I think, on your podcast. So we'll get you a copy of that. But yeah, I've really got to start buying paperback books, or at least my own. Just these kind of situations.
It really makes it easier for people to to find it and download it, because they can listen to it, right? You know what I'm saying? I can imagine people being at the gym listening to it and things like that, because in the world that we live in today, it's so common for the scammers now, right? You know what I'm saying? And it makes it a lot easier, right? They're evolving with technology, right? And I'm gonna speak from my own, because I have an experience, right? But although they didn't get me, because I paid attention to what they were doing, I was just like, when they start saying, "Oh, you should download this," I go, "No, I don't think we're gonna do that," right? And what they didn't know is that I caught on to them early on during the conversation with the young lady.
Yeah.
Right. I had just purchased a laptop, and they all of a sudden, they're like, "Hey, the laptop that you have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." I said, hold on. Are you sure about that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to see how far she would go.
See,
I wanted to see,
it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And sure enough, I have been watching. So there's a YouTube channel, Payback Scammer.
Mm-hmm.
I have been watching that.
It was immediately in your awareness. You were thinking.
Right. And I started, when she said download this app and things like that, I put two and two together. I was like, let me just see how far she's willing to go, right? And so I did. And for like 3 days, she finally caught on to I was wasting her time. She's like, "Sir, are you wasting my time?" I go, "Yeah, actually I am." And
you remind me of my ex-husband. He used to love to play with people.
I messed with her so hard. I did. And then she's like, "Well, you're going to pay for this." I go, "Really?" I said, "I don't know how you think I'm going to pay for it." And what she did, she sent a phone bot to my phone and had my phone being bombarded with all of these calls. But I was quicker than them. And I was just like, block, 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 block. And finally they gave up. But they constantly tried all the time, even on social media, right? You should definitely, like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah. And so I make sure none of my stuff is connected to my social media, like my banks and stuff like that. And I've had people try.
Oh, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, I've had them try. And Zoey, I tell you, I have some of the most fun with these people, because it's like they're like, "Oh, you think you're smart?" I was like, "I'm smarter than you."
Right.
Oh, it messes. Oh, they get so angry. "Well, I'll just do this." You can try. It's not going to work, though. Exactly. And so then some apps that I have on my computer, they try to hack into it, and they don't understand that they get funneled into my security system. Yeah. And it's connected to something different. And I'm like, "Yeah, by all means, keep doing it." Mm-hmm. You're going to find the right door real quick. And I promise you're not going to like what shows up at your door.
Well, I mean, you've got yourself very well protected. Like the way it was hard for us to connect for this, trying to get messages to you. Like, man, this guy has got some serious security. There's no getting to him short of knocking on his door.
Right. Well, I have to, right? Because for one, I have to protect the people that I talk to. Mm-hmm. Right. So one thing about me, the work that I do, right? I'm a men's grief coach. I'm a podcaster. I'm an author. I do guest speaking. But for the most part, I have a lot of information that people don't need to get a hold of. Mm-hmm. People's, vulnerable information, like clients and things like that. So my job is to always protect them. And also when I do podcasting and stuff, people like to come in and try to hack those things. I'm like, yeah, no. You're gonna have to go through some other things in order to do that. And so that's why it's always important for me to have conversations with people and things like that. So I know, right? And then we can take the next steps, right?
Right.
And so, but you hear these horror stories, Zoe. You hear these horror stories, right? Um, and sometimes people don't. Sometimes it's a little bit too late for people, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And what I mean by that, like I watched the show. Lady knew that didn't know that she was getting scammed. She was an older lady,
Mhm.
and they were taking her. I mean, I think at the time when they finally got a hold of her, they had already got her for 75,000,
Right.
right? And they
Exactly.
were trying to get all the rest of it. Now,
Oh,
this makes me go to my first question for you.
yep.
What what do you think goes on in the mind of a scammer to to make them want to do something like that? Because a
That
lot of times they're from different countries.
right. Yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of times, like the country of Nigeria, the whole Nigerian prince thing from way
Uh-huh.
back when, and they adapt, right? I really think there's two factors, right, that cause people. Sometimes it's desperation, and I would
Hmm.
say in a country like Nigeria, probably desperation feeds into it a little bit. They're driving me crazy, actually. Since I started writing books, I've gotten so many offers for help with publishing and this and that and artwork.
Hmm.
And it's been an onslaught of people from Nigeria because
Hmm.
they believe that's where the work is. And they have Fiverr is full of people from Nigeria.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so there's a factor of, I think, desperation, trying to make a living, trying to do things the right way, but
Hmm.
then finding that it's a lot easier to not do things the right way. But then there's also the people who are just they were raised a certain way. They have that mindset to be a criminal. Maybe something happened in their life that pushed them in that direction, or maybe it's natural. Couldn't say that. That's a
Right,
psychologist that would make that
right.
determination. But I figure it's either the circumstances or something mental that causes them to want to do that.
Right.
And it is interesting because their approach, that manipulation, at first they're so kind and they're understanding, and I don't want to ask too much from you. But then it gets to a point where, and I go into this in my book. My original book cover, I was gonna have like a constrictor snake because
Mm.
that's how it feels when they have you in their clutches. It's like they're a snake that has wound around you like a boa constrictor, and as you breathe and that constrictor contracts and you try to catch your breath and it contracts some more, that
Mhm.
is how a scammer feels to the victim. There comes a point as a victim where you are so deeply, you talk about grief. Your show was about grief. You have that grief because they set you up in a situation where you're supposed to feel that grief, or they put you in a situation where you're so desperate that you don't care if you live or die. I actually, for the first time in my life, during that second time being scammed, went to the doctor, asked for medication because I was so deeply depressed and full of grief. And every day I woke up thinking, I don't want to live. And I was pushing. I work in healthcare. I talk to people all day long about their health and get them to their doctor.
Yeah.
And it was all I could do to just do my job, because that took every ounce of my strength. So I needed that medication from my doctor to help me through that
Right.
until I could reach a point of back to normal.
I started thinking as you was talking about that, right? But and if you're not comfortable with answering, just let me know. With the first time that you got scammed, what was what was how did they approach this, right? This way, it gives the audience an idea because there's probably someone out there right now that may be going through something similar and not even knowing that they're getting scammed.
Well, exactly. And that's what happened to me the very first time it happened. And it's funny because I feel like it's always at a point in time when I'm at a low point in my life.
Hmm.
both times it was low point financially, actually. The first time I was still married, but my husband was gone taking care of business. But we had reached a point where we were in such deep debt because of his financial decisions that I was going crazy trying to figure out how to make ends meet, trying to figure out how to make money myself, trying to do a business and doing online advertising. And that was actually how they found me.
Mm.
And so it went from, talking about business and hoping that they would, be a potential, if not a potential customer, at least someone who would lead me to a potential customer.
Right.
And they built that rapport. And so in the same way, this time around too, but again, I was on guard against it, but it was right when I was trying to make a push to try to build a business. The second time I was trying to work in the field of travel. And because that was something that I had an interest in, but also, the means for it. And again, potential client, hopeful and building the rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking, okay, well, this is someone who, I'm going to be able to work with. And they ask for these things that are not monetary. They get you comfortable saying, well, yes to this. And you're building that relationship thinking, okay, but they're going to travel. And so then they're going to say yes to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in both my situations, it was very similar in that I was trying to do something to improve my own financial situation.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense because I've seen probably 6 formats of the scam. One being Geek Squad, another one being PayPal. All of those different areas. Or the funniest one I had, where I was looking for a place. I was with one of my ex-girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
and we were looking for a place. This guy was in he said he was in a whole new state. Red flag, right? Well, unfortunately, my girlfriend, she was falling for it, right? Because the house that we were looking at, nice little 3-bedroom house, the monthly rent was phenomenal, right? Which is unheard of where we at. So another red flag, right? But she was like, oh my God, we can do this. And so the guy was like, yeah, if you send me $700, I can send you the key. I was like, hold on. What do you mean send you the key, right? And my girlfriend, she was like, no. He's in North Carolina. I said, I said, so I did what I felt was comfortable, right? I said, you know what? Tell him to give me a call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't want to talk about it. And I sat down and I thought about it for a minute. I said, ooh, this is about to be real good. And I told my girlfriend, I said, like, don't be disappointed if this is not what you think it is. Oh, you just, so of course, had I left it to her own thoughts and actions, she would have been got. And so I told her, I said, just have him give me a call tomorrow. So of course, like clockwork, he gives me a call. Right? He didn't know what I did. Right? I had already set it up to where, you go call me on my phone. I have it running through my security system.
Recording it.
No, I did. Not only was it being recorded, but it was being funneled. So as it was trying to get me, I was funneling his information through my system, through another system. Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, please just keep talking. Right. And so he's like, you got to act fast. I get hundreds of people every day and everything. I said, but you said that you're in North Carolina. What part of North Carolina are you in?
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? I said, because, wherever you at, I can get a hold of one of my cousins.
Yeah.
And everything. And I can wire them the money and he can come over and get the key from you and mail the key to me. Oh, no. I was like, okay. I said, well, I'm not going to send you any money. Right? Because if you're in North Carolina, I got family out there. I can have them come over. They can see you legitimately. I said, and what's the name? What is your name? And so what he didn't know is that the guy that he was claiming to be was sitting next to me when I was doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was another thing. So I had done my research, right? Yes. And I was at the house because I told him, I said, well, if you're if this is the house and everything, you know what I'm saying? Tell me a little bit more about it. And so he done his research too. And then I said, well, hold on for a minute. And I gave the phone to the guy that actually owned the house. And
I
so
love
that's how he was getting caught up. And
dug himself in pretty deep there.
yeah, he was digging himself in pretty deep. So, you know what I'm saying? It was about to be a lot of fun. But a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know, man. A lot of people don't know. And when you talk about the healing process
Mhm.
and things like that, explain to me what that was like for you.
Yeah. It took a long time, actually. I mean, I don't think I truly began to heal until I started to reverse engineer, break down, and try to understand how it happened. But also, this doesn't always happen, so I can't recommend it for everyone. But it helped me to have some degree of closure when I also saw the person under a different name with the same picture on Facebook.
Mhm.
I had been looking for conclusive evidence the whole time. Like, is he scamming me? Is he not scamming me? I kept looking. I did reverse image searches. I did extensive research on, the school he supposedly had gone to. And I kept coming up against, nothing conclusive. And there was just enough doubt to make me go, well, okay, I'll give you benefit of the doubt, which, they love. But for me, it was the combination of reverse engineering to understand it, and then finally seeing that picture with his different name. That combination
Right.
really helped me a lot.
Okay.
Actually, it made me really, really want to get my book out at that point.
Okay. Now, what sort of damage did they do when they got you, right? When they scammed you? What sort of damage did they do?
Yep. A smart person probably would have walked away with maybe a few hundred or a few $1,000s worth of damage. I walked away with several $1,000s worth of damage. I'm not going to give
Okay.
a specific number because I learned the hard way that
Mhm.
when you tell a scammer, well, I've been scammed before and I lost X amount of money, you've just given them a financial goal.
Right,
So
right,
I'm not
right.
doing that anymore. Not especially not in a recording.
Yeah. No,
But
no, don't. Yeah, I just was curious, right? I'm not looking for a specific
yeah,
amount because
no,
you just
no
never know
worries.
who's out there watching,
Well,
right? You know what I'm saying?
exactly. Or
Yeah, and we
exactly.
never want to give people, you know what I'm saying, a goal to reach, right? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, don't. We're not going to do that.
And telling them you've been scammed before is like music to their ears. They know you're going to be a challenge.
Uh
They're
huh.
going to take it a
Uh
lot
huh.
slower. They're going to really work on building that trust. And now they have AI technology that they can go, well, this person responded this way. What's going to be the most, way I can respond to gain their trust? Now they've got
Right.
that technology behind them to help them even more figure out how to keep you
Right.
in the dark.
Right.
So,
And it's crazy, it's crazy how they do it, right? And
mm,
so now I want to get your thoughts on this, right? Because when you when you see some of these shows and they get their cameras hacked and things like that,
mhm,
a lot of times they're surprised. Well, some of the people are surprised, and it looks like a total network, right? You know what I'm saying? Of people making phone calls, like So my thing is, how deep does the scam go? Are they're telling these people, they're giving these people this format of how to talk with you,
mhm,
and then they get it to a certain point, they hand it over to someone else,
right,
etc. Right? You know what I'm saying? And then from there, it goes to another person, right? And of course, there's a boss, there's
mhm,
employees, they work off a commission and things
right,
like that. So my thought is maybe maybe there's only like three, maybe four people that know about the scam,
yeah,
and the rest of them are people that they bought in as
mhm,
employees that don't know about the scam,
yes,
right? Like, how crazy is that?
yeah. I mean, it's a whole network. It's a whole business, really, when you think about it. The way that they've got that set up.
Hmm.
And like I said, even in my case, this last time, the first time I felt like I was only working with one person and I was able to get out of that easier.
Uh-huh.
But this last time, I feel like there was at least 2 people, if not 3, involved. Either that or the guy had 3 different personalities he was working. But,
Right.
Everything that I thought was true, usually I felt like I could spot a scammer a mile away. You look at their profile, it's a short timeline. But now they are farming these identities like on Facebook
Ooh.
years in advance.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
even using the name of one of their previous victims with the information that they gathered. So they're letting it, mature until they can use it later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they take people off of Facebook as far as their conversations. So if you could report, like I reported the guy with the new name, Facebook's like, it doesn't, do anything with our community policies, so
Oh
it'll
my
stay.
God.
So like, well, okay then. And there's no way to message them and say, look, I've got proof. No, it's just that, it meets our community standards. So the only way to protect yourself is to really understand possible scenarios and the way that they think, because, just like, I'm going to go back to the virus, the medical professionals, they recognize, let's say the flu virus, it has a specific look to it, but there's variations, right? But the core virus is the same. Same thing with a scammer. Some things are going to be the same no matter what. But there's going to be those variations, that you may not see coming, and you may not recognize it for the disease that it is.
Right. Right. Wow. That is crazy. It's crazy.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And when you think about the networking that comes along with it, because I think about when I think about the stuff that I do during the day, right? I network with people, of course, because I have a business.
Yeah.
In order to get to know them and things like that. And I'm going,
you have
if
to.
they follow this same blueprint,
Yeah, and they
right?
could.
Wow.
They could. This is one of the things that tripped me up. So early on in talking to this guy, he voluntarily sent me a picture, right? But it wasn't of the same picture that was on his Facebook profile. So I thought to myself, oh, what's this? Let me see if I can catch him in a lie. I was still like, scammer. And so I made a comment, oh, that's a nice picture. And then he came back, oh, whoops, I sent the wrong picture. I sent one of my coworkers. Here's the picture of me. So either he made an honest mistake and caught it, or that was part of his plan. He
Right.
wanted me to know there was another picture and a name attached to it, so that I would then research that person and try to validate him that way. Could have been either one of those scenarios.
Well, it's building trust.
Exactly.
It's building trust, right? And this is something that I learned a long time ago from a guy. And it's you probably heard this before. The game, right? You know what I'm saying? The game that you play with people, the game of life in general, right? You know what I'm saying? And he used to always say this to me, look, man, the game is to be told, never sold, right? And when you understand the game, they use it as the format for a lot of things in life, right? Survival, how to make money, the people, but you have to recognize the players. He goes, the only thing about the game that always changes is the people, names and the faces, right? But the game always stays the same. So you know what I'm saying? When you understand that, he goes, then you flip it around and look at it this way. This is something that is universal.
Yeah.
It's chess, it's not checkers.
Right. Well, and here's something too. So just like you as a podcaster have a core audience that you're aiming toward, the scammer has their core audience they're looking for.
Right.
As I've been researching podcast programs, I stumbled on one about people who are naturally empathic, right? They're very kind-hearted to the point where they can be taken advantage of.
Right.
And I had not consciously thought about the connection until I saw this particular podcast program that I reached out to her about. But I thought, well, that's exactly it. That is the scammer's core audience. They don't want a narcissist. Narcissists only care about themselves. They're
Right.
never going to do a thing for you, right? And I say that loosely. Sometimes, I
No, it's true. It's definitely true.
don't
I've
mean
been in a relationship with a narcissist, so whew.
exactly. But an empath, not only will they do something for you, they will look for things to do for you. They want to do things for you because that's who they are.
Right, right.
You know, there was one day I was shopping at Aldi's and I saw this homeless man, and he didn't ask me for anything, but you know what? I bought him a bag of groceries. So I was their core audience for the scammers,
Right.
just because that was the personality, right? And I forget where I was going with that, except that the idea of the core audience. So they know who they're
Right.
shopping for. They want someone who's maybe lives by themselves or who feels isolated or at least emotionally distant from their spouse, if not physically distant. And they definitely want someone who has that core kindness, because they weaponize that kindness against the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
But also they're looking for older people, senior citizens and things like that, people that can be easily manipulated, and maybe someone who has been in situations and automatically, goes, oh my God, I gotta go take care of this, right? Type things. So, I get that part and everything. Which now leads me to my next question. What are some questions that family members can ask um, to to be sure when someone that they cares about is being scammed? What are some of the things that they can ask in order to kind of open up the doors?
Absolutely. So I think what you're asking me is what they should be asking themselves first. When
Okay.
before ever approaching the person, because directly approaching the person maybe isn't always the best plan. Having an open door, having a hearing ear to them is, being supportive up to a point is, but this is why I go to that questionnaire. So, you're looking for behavioral and emotional changes. Emotional changes, in my opinion, are very big, but behavioral, are they more withdrawn, secretive, less engaged with family and friends, right?
Right. Right.
Are they spending more time than usual, on the computer or at odd hours? Are they unusually distracted, anxious, stressed, especially after receiving messages? Have they made any crazy financial decisions? For example, selling their car abruptly and suddenly not having a mode of transportation. um,
Ooh, I've
you
seen that
know,
happen.
yeah, absolutely. Are they isolating themselves from people they would normally trust? So there's a lot of questions out there. Are they able to make their bills? Were they very responsible and suddenly they can't afford to pay their electricity?
Yeah.
Those are some key warning signs. Now, as for what to do about it, again, you have to be very sensitive to your approach, because, they're usually, going back to the behavioral changes, someone who was maybe open about their life before is suddenly very secretive,
Hmm.
definitely a red flag. And you want to have a conversation, but maybe not directly. That's where I feel like my book might be helpful if it's available and you just kind of have it sitting out. Because when you're being scammed on some subconscious level, I think you recognize that it's a possibility, but
Hmm.
you're in a state of denial, almost like you're drowning in 3 feet of water.
Right.
There's help there. You can help yourself, but the manipulator has you so turned around and confused that you feel like you're way out there in the ocean.
Hmm.
So my book, I feel like, is like a little life raft. So if it's
Okay.
there, and then you can even, like, in a subtle way, maybe put out the questionnaire for a victim, and maybe not say anything. Maybe you just leave it where they can see it, and maybe if they're honest and they look at it themselves, they will come to that conclusion and they will speak to you. In my own situation, I actually only vaguely hinted to my friends and family that I was in trouble. I didn't really come out completely with them until after I wrote my book.
Right.
That's when I was able to finally share with them, because I had healed to a point where I felt I could share with them.
Okay.
Most especially my best friend, who was right here in town and who was worried about me. She had thought perhaps I was but she didn't know how to approach the subject. She did ask questions.
Okay.
I just wasn't ready to answer the questions.
Okay. Now, which leads me to my next question. Um, how do we support those individuals who have been victimized by the scammers?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing is to maybe not leave them alone. My friend, as much as she loves me, she was busy. She had a busy life and she had her own things going on. And my family, who I used to live on the same property with, is more than 6 hours away. So I really kind of was a prime target because I was isolated. I even work from home. So that's even more isolation, right?
Right, right.
So I think the key is being there, just being around, maybe, having them over to your house, dropping in on them and just being available. And that way they have someone to talk to and potentially open up to.
Yeah. Now, is there a place that people can report these things, right? Because I know a lot of times what happens is that most of these scammers are in a totally different country, right?
Right.
And it's so hard to track them down and I mean, it's become a lot easier now because I've seen some of the shows where, these people are, partnered with like the FBI and the CIA, et cetera, right? And they're able to, to call over in a different country and go, look, we have a location, this building, this floor, there's probably about, 2 dozen people in there, and this is what they're doing, and this is the proof that we have.
Right.
And they go over there and stop them. Now, I think what the biggest challenge is that they never keep them, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So what may be a felony over here is a misdemeanor over there,
Right.
sort of thing, right? So is there a place where if a person is potentially being scammed, and the person and the I hate saying the word victim.
Right. That's why I
But
say possible victim, because I never
right,
like
I was
to
gonna,
keep them
yeah,
in that snapshot.
right. Well, the possible, we're just gonna call him a John, the possible John, right? Is there a place that if they're in a situation like this that they can contact someone, you know what I'm saying, without notifying the scammer?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And say, hey, look, this is what's going on. This person's been calling me. I do believe I'm being scammed. Is there anything that you can do to help me? Right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And kind of like do that part or something like that.
Right. I mean, the obvious answer is, through the federal resources that are out there, the
Mhm.
FBI and so on. I learned later on that also there are watchdog groups on Facebook where
Mhm.
you're encouraged to, if you have like the picture of the scammer, to report them. There are people also, I learned that, who investigate and try to trace back and try to get your money back for you.
Mhm. Yeah, I've
So
seen those.
there are resources for that, but I would say the number one are the governmental authorities, going to FBI.gov, making the report, and then they in turn might go to your local law enforcement and have them come see you so you can make that additional report.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it- now, I have two more questions for you. Two more
Sure.
questions. First I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping shed a light on the situation and bringing more awareness so people can be aware of these things, right? And know how to take these necessary steps. So before I ask the two questions,
Yeah.
repeat to everyone how they can find your book or
Okay.
books.
So my book is available through most of the online booksellers. If they can go to Amazon, they can go to Barnes and Noble, Kobo, what have you. It's available not just digitally, but also in a hardback and paperback. But through
Okay.
those online booksellers, I hope eventually to get it into the libraries. But I have some work to do where that's concerned.
Very honest. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. So now, my first question would be, how can people find you?
So I do have a website. It's zoeymichaels.com.
Mhm.
Fairly simple. I also have my Facebook page. Zoey Michaels Books is the handle. Same thing for Instagram. And although I haven't posted anything specific to this book, I do have a YouTube channel, Zoey Michaels Books.
Oh, okay. And now, my second question to you would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Reading people's minds might be very handy.
Oh, that's messy now. You better be careful. You're like, oh, whoa, I didn't want to go in that mind. You might want to be careful with that one. No, I think it'd be pretty cool though, right? Because I think a lot of times people are very dishonest with their intentions
Right,
towards you, right?
exactly. So
I
if you
think,
could understand what they were thinking, it would
mhm.
be
Or
at least
just what their
something to
intentions are,
protect them.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, look. In a way, I'd say be careful, but in so many ways, I would love that because I would like
Mhm.
to be like, okay, what are your intentions towards me, right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I don't like the intentions where, oh, I'm gonna get to know you, then I'm gonna get you type thing. I don't
Right.
like that. Be
No,
honest with me. Tell me what your intentions are first. Don't do that.
exactly.
Type
Yeah.
thing. Um, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Right. I think I'm gonna have to
Especially
add that to
with
my
long
list soon.
distance, like when you're
Yeah.
because in person, at least there's maybe the possibility of reading body language.
Hmm.
Maybe. I mean, there's still like your people out there who are very good at masking their intentions, even with body language. But
Right.
I do I envy my parents' generation because so much of what they did was in person. Everything was in
Hmm.
person. I love the freedom of doing things online. I truly enjoy the being able to hop on the internet and like have this conversation with you.
Right.
We live
Right.
in an amazing age, but it's also a dangerous age.
Yes. It makes it a lot easier, as I mentioned before in the beginning. It makes it too easy
Yes.
to get cyber attacked. It makes it a lot easier to be manipulated because people can portray a lifestyle online that is really not true in person, right?
Ex-
But you'll never know because like they look, as they say, if it's not on camera, it don't exist. So you can put anything that you want on camera.
Even if it is on camera now with the deep fakes.
Right. Well, you got AI, right? You know what I'm saying? You got all of these different filters, and how easy it is for a person to go up and go, oh, this is my car. Oh, by the way, this is my house, right?
Right.
Type thing, right? And they could build this lifestyle that they know that is not true. And so
Right.
many people will fall for it, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
so, we have to be real careful about that.
Mhm.
Now, one last thing for you. If you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Whew. I would say just please, please, even if you don't read my book, just be careful.
Mhm.
And if there's someone out there who wants to do a better version of my book, I applaud it. But let's be open and let's talk about this. Just like, real rape used to be kind of swept under the rug, and
Mhm.
therefore people were victimized more. This needs to be out in the open and talked about more freely so that others will be more aware of what can happen.
Right,
That for me is the most important thing. Let's make this part of public awareness. Let's not have the information scattered here, there, where the
right,
victim in the moment can't find what they're looking for.
right.
Make it aware.
Mm. That is amazing. That's amazing. But so I want to say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. For everyone else out there that have been tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, all these different platforms, guys, thank you. And if you are someone who is in a situation like this, two things: call someone, but also prepare yourself. Go and grab Zoey's book. Read up on it. You know what I'm saying? If you know somebody who's in that situation, this book is going to help you guys. So, you know what I'm saying? Don't be a victim anymore, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's bring more awareness out here and things like that. Reach out to Zoey. Find her on Facebook. Her information will be in the YouTube channel. So, guys, go there and check it out. But also go check out her YouTube channel as well, right? And you know what I'm saying? And let's support each other. For those that out there that have made it, and you find value in the conversations that we have, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who can benefit from the conversations that we have, please, you know what I'm saying, share this along with them. But let us know your thoughts. Leave the comments and things like that in the comment section. Be sure to get back to you. Thank you, guys. As always, Zoey, again, thank you for the honor and the privilege of being able to have this conversation with you. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we can do this again. And, I'm looking forward to love these conversations. Love these conversations. And for everyone else out there, guys, thank you for always allowing me to bring these conversations. Thank you for your love and your support. We're going to close out this episode of Brief Let's Talk About It podcast. We're going to see you in the next one. All right. So you guys have a wonderful night. Peace. I love you.
Thank you.